A little Mother's Day special. Rebecca Lowe, Catherine Tappan, a special on her turf, inspiring greatness. You can follow that hashtag on Instagram as well, 8 Eastern. Join our friends Rebecca and KT for that on Monday. Speaking of inspiring greatness, Amy Trask has done that, a real glass ceiling breaker in so many ways. 3 decades with the Raiders as an executive in the National Football League, and Amy's going to join us here for some conversation about the NFL and life in general. Amy, we are so happy to have you with us because you can answer so many questions about what's going on for the people who make decisions at the corporate and business level in the NFL. I can't imagine what your peers who are currently in those jobs are trying to navigate right now with the uncertainty of what's ahead in September.
Well, Mike, before I jump into that, let me tell you that it is an absolute privilege and pleasure to join you. I'm honored to be on with you. As my mother would say, I am tickled pink. As to the National Football League. Okay. Yeah, I enjoyed every moment of working with you throughout my career. Thank you for that, and thank you for this. As to the NFL, look, they are going to plan for absolutely every contingency. None of us know what's going to happen. None of us know the timeline on which things will happen. And so planning for a variety of contingencies makes a lot of sense. And you may have to come up with multiple plans, all of which you take and throw over your shoulders as they become unrealistic. And I am confident that not only the league office, but many, many teams are working on these collaboratively.
You're in the analyst role on CBS Sports and do a terrific job on that other pregame show that airs early on Sunday mornings and gets all of our football conversation going. And the issues that come up there are often the ones that are at the center of the league. And there was so much conversation, Amy, leading up to Las Vegas hosting the draft. And that was going to be the unveil the curtain, open the curtain, unveil the statue moment for the Raiders franchise in Las Vegas. As somebody who lived the Raiders life, the silver and black life for 3 decades, what are your thoughts on the Raiders now being part of Las Vegas?
Well, my thoughts are not mutually exclusive, and when I share them with you, I will note that some people think they're mutually inconsistent or exclusive, if you will. For those fans who are looking forward to the move, who are embracing the move, I'm delighted, I'm happy. And for those fans who are heartbroken by the move, I'm heartbroken for them. And there are fans that fall into each of those categories. Some fans will follow the team to Las Vegas when games are ultimately played there. Some fans will say, no, I've had enough. My heart is with the latter, and I'm happy for the former. It's going to be, though, a paradigm shift for the team. Right now, as you know, when you go to a game, or I should say now past tense, when you went to a game in Oakland, that stadium was 95, 98% full of Raider fans. And while there will be a lot of Raider fans, of course, at those games in Las Vegas, there will also be a lot of fans of the visiting team, because when we start going back to sporting events and when fans are admitted to sporting events, if your team is playing the Raiders on the road and you can go to only one road game to see your team, well, come on, we all saw Vegas Vacation. You're going to Vegas.
You're exactly right. And, you know, Amy, I think that's a good point to get into a bit deeper, because when teams, franchises move, it's now mostly about economics. Certainly in this case, it was not apathy. I mean, you look at the black hole, there were some bad Raider teams over the years of recent ilk, and the black hole was as loud and as passionate and as intense as ever. It does speak to the economics that on the return to Oakland just never really fit where the NFL is now in trying to compete with other teams around the league.
Well, I couldn't say that any better than you just said it. The fans in the black hole, and the black hole, of course, is one particular area of the stadium, but the stadium as a whole is referred to by many as the black hole. Those fans are magnificent, and as you noted, they supported that team through thick and a lot of thin. And yes, new stadium deals, team moves are about economics. That certainly wasn't for lack of fan support.
Well, in your time with the Raiders, you got to share space, make decisions with, rub shoulders with, conversations along with some of the best in the NFL. And I want to ask you about a couple of them. First, what was it like every day to go to work and work for Al Davis?
It was the opportunity of a lifetime. The biggest misconception about Al is that he wouldn't tolerate anyone who disagreed with him. If that was the case, I would have been fired about 2 weeks into my job. I won't bore you with the whole story. I will just say, roughly 2 weeks in, I had a loud disagreement with him. I told him he was wrong. We yelled back and forth at one another. It was really a very substantial disagreement. And after a lot of yelling, he looked at me and said, okay, I gotcha. And we moved on, and that set the tone for almost 30 years of working together. I think I disagreed with him more than I agreed with him, but he not only tolerated, he welcomed reasoned disagreement. It was the opportunity and a privilege of a lifetime to work for him. And, you know, when he hired me, Mike, you know this, it was the mid-'80s. The conversation, there was no conversation about women in football. And so I would say to your viewers, to your listeners, whether you're a Raider fan or a Raider hater, whether you loved Al or didn't, this is someone who hired without regard to race, gender, ethnicity, or any other individuality, which has no bearing whatsoever on whether one can do a job.
It's truly part of his greatness and his legacy. So this is May the 4th, and Star Wars fans always put out in their social media is May the 4th be with you. I love your annual May 4th tweet that you've already put out today, Amy, regarding Al Davis and all the Star Wars and May the 4th. There it is, the annual transcript of the conversation. I need you to greet Darth Vader, Al, who the blank is Darth Vader. Perfect. Absolutely perfect.
That was Vintage Al. We were doing a sponsorship. The sponsor asked me to introduce Al to Darth, and that was the conversation. And by the way, as we were just discussing Al, if you saw a very funny look across my face, it had nothing to do with our conversation. There was a cat about to jump right on. Well, there's the cat. And I was, look, she's making a little cameo.
There's the cat.
I was scared she was going to disconnect the microphone because she likes to play with it. Okay,
well, that's perfect. The cat heard the beginning of the segment that it's dog week, so the cat wanted equal time. So we are just balancing out. Perfect for this segment. Amy, as we wrap up, we mentioned earlier the passing of the great Don Shula, the Hall of Fame coach. You think of Al Davis and Don Shula, the guys who were really the Mount Rushmore of the AFC as it crossed over after the merger and the rise to prominence of the franchises there in the 70s and late 70s. Obviously, Shula was an NFL guy with the Colts, and the Dolphins come in a little bit later. But as the AFC really rose, you think of those great Raider teams, those great Dolphin teams. What are your reflections on the Hall of Fame coach who passed away today?
Well, several-fold. Again, I will reference the fact that when I first started in the league, it was the mid-'80s. Oh, one sec, this cat is going to disconnect us. Hold on. Come here, baby. It was the mid-'80s, okay. And there was no discussion of women in football. And the reason I note this is to put the following into context. From the moment I met Don and I interacted with him at league meetings, on game day, conversations I had the privilege of joining between him and Al, he never, ever, ever treated me in a manner that was any different from the manner in which he treated my male colleagues. And the reason I keep referencing the 80s is for those of your viewers and listeners who are younger and many of whom probably weren't even born yet, for someone to be so gender neutral, gender blind back in the mid-'80s was really something. And my experience with Don was just that. I had the opportunity to interact with him at league meetings. On game day, I sat and listened to him and Al talk X's and O's, and they answered every question, and I asked a lot of them, and I am better and was better at my job for my relationship, my interactions with Don.
Well, we should all and can all say the same about our time around you. One of the greatest game changers in NFL history. When the NFL 100 list was voted, they did that topic as well, and Amy was part of that, and deservingly so. You see her work on CBS, and if you follow her on Twitter, everything ends with "and hi." So I'll say "and hi" to the cat and to you, and thanks for joining us, Amy. We really appreciate it. Stay safe.
It is my pleasure and privilege, and sorry about the cat eruption.
It made the show. Look, live animals, you cannot trump kids or live animals on TV, and we've brought it all to you here in one show. See you down the road. Thanks, Amy.
Thanks, Mike.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.